I'm Haley, 34. Right now, I'm sitting on the balcony of my $30 million mansion in Malibu, sipping coffee and watching the sun paint the Pacific Ocean in a riot of colors. It's a view that still takes my breath away, but it's also a reminder of the long and winding road that led me here. 3 years ago, I was standing on the porch of my childhood home, a single suitcase at my feet and just $200 in my pocket. My father, Richard, had just screamed at me to get out and never come back. The pain of that moment was almost unbearable, but it was also the catalyst that propelled me forward. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. My family lived in a modest house on the outskirts of town. My father was a hard, working but deeply traditional man. He worked as a manager at a local factory. Success, in his eyes, was measured by a stable 9-to-5 job, a big house, and a family that followed the rules. He was always quick to criticize and slow to praise. My mother, Linda, was a gentle soul. She used to be a nurse, but when my older brother, Ryan, was born, my father convinced her to stay at home. "A woman's place is in the home," he'd say. Over the years, I watched her spirit fade under his control. She loved us, but she was trapped in a cycle of fear and submission. Ryan was the apple of my father's eye. He played baseball in high school, got good grades, and then went on to study finance at a local university. He married his high school sweetheart, Emily, right after graduation and got a job at a bank. My father was always bragging about Ryan's achievements. I, on the other hand, was different. When I was 13, my grandfather, Henry, gave me an old desktop computer. He was the only one in the family who encouraged my curiosity. My father was furious. He said it was a waste of time and that I should focus on more practical things. But I was hooked. I spent hours teaching myself to code, building simple websites about my hobbies like photography and bird watching. School was a breeze for me. I maintained a near perfect GPA, but my father always found something to complain about. "You're not using your potential," he'd say. "You need to aim higher." My 17th birthday was a turning point. I just finished building a mobile app that helped local farmers sell their produce directly to consumers. I was so excited to show it to my family at dinner. My mother was supportive, as always, but Ryan just shrugged it off. My father, though, was dismissive. "It's just a silly little app," he said. "What's the real world value?" That night, I made a silent vow to myself. I would prove him wrong. I worked part-time jobs throughout high school, saving every penny I could. When I got accepted into a university in California with a scholarship in computer science, I thought I'd finally escaped. But my father was still there, criticizing my choice of major. "Computer science? That's not a real career," he scoffed. College was tough. Even with the scholarship, I had to work multiple jobs to make ends meet. I met my best friend, Ava, in my freshman year. She was studying marketing and had a family that supported her both emotionally and financially. She couldn't believe how my father treated me. "He's just jealous of your talent," she'd say. In my sophomore year, Ava and I came up with an idea for a new app. It was a platform that connected local artisans with customers. We spent months developing it, fueled by late-night coffee and sheer determination. But when I went home for Thanksgiving break and showed it to my family, my father's reaction was the same. "It's a nice try, but it'll never make any money," he said. Back at school, I was devastated, but I refused to give up. I threw myself into my studies and continued working on the app. A professor, Dr. Thompson, noticed my work and took me under his wing. He introduced me to an internship at a startup in the Bay Area. It was an unpaid position, but it was a foot in the door. The app, unfortunately, didn't take off as we'd hoped. After a year of struggling, Ava and I had to shut it down. It was a huge blow, but we learned a lot from the experience. After graduation, the recession hit. 2 of the job offers I'd received were rescinded. The only job I could find was at a local tech support company, far below my skill level. I moved back home, feeling like a failure. My father wasted no time in establishing his rules. Curfews, chores, and constant lectures about my career choices. The tension at home was unbearable. One day, during a heated argument, I told him about a new security software project I was working on. He just laughed and said it was a pipe dream. That was the last straw. I snapped back at him, telling him that I was done living up to his impossible standards. He exploded in a rage and told me to get out. With nowhere else to go, I called Ava. She sent me money for a plane ticket to California. When I arrived, I was broke and homeless. But I didn't have time to wallow in self-pity. I sent out dozens of job applications and started working on my security software project in earnest. A week later, I got an email from Dr. Thompson. His old colleague needed a junior developer at a cyber security firm. I got the job, and it was the start of a new chapter. I rented a tiny room in a shared apartment. I lived on a strict budget, cutting out all unnecessary expenses. Every night and weekend, I worked on my project, which I named Sentinel. 6 months later, I met Jake, a UI/UX designer at a tech meetup. He saw the potential in Sentinel and offered to partner with me. We spent months refining the product, looking for investors. It was a long and difficult process, filled with rejections. But then we got lucky. A small angel investor, Sarah, saw our pitch and decided to give us $150,000 in seed funding. It was a game changer. We worked day and night to build Sentinel into a viable business. Our beta launch was a success, and slowly but surely, our user base grew. A well-known tech blogger reviewed Sentinel and called it a game changer in the small business security market. Overnight, we went from a small startup to a hot acquisition target. The offers started pouring in. The first one was from a big security company, but the price was too low. We held out, and eventually, we received an offer from a giant in the industry, Cybertech. They offered $75 million for Sentinel. After careful consideration, we decided to accept. The day the acquisition closed, I couldn't believe it. I had gone from being kicked out of my home to a multi-millionaire in just 3 years. I bought this mansion in Malibu, a symbol of my success and independence. But the journey hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. The transition from a struggling entrepreneur to a wealthy executive has been challenging. I've had to learn how to manage a team, make high-stakes decisions, and deal with the pressure of success. My family relationships have also been complicated. My mother visits me often now. We've rebuilt our relationship, and I've seen a spark of the old her return. She's even started painting again, a hobby she'd given up years ago. Ryan and I have also grown closer. He's realized that our paths are different, and he's become more supportive. My father, though, remains a mystery. He sent me an email after the acquisition, congratulating me but also making a backhanded comment about how he always knew I could do it if I'd just listened to him. I decided to invite him to dinner in Denver. When we met, he looked older and more tired. We talked about safe topics at first, but then, over dessert, he tried to take credit for my success. I couldn't let it go. I told him the truth about how his criticism had hurt me and how I'd succeeded in spite of him. The conversation was tense, but it was also a long, overdue release of emotions. I left that dinner knowing that I'd finally taken control of my narrative. Now, as I sit here watching the sunrise, I realize that the journey has been as important as the destination. I've learned that true success is not measured by money or possessions, but by the strength of the relationships we build and the ability to stay true to ourselves. If there's one thing I'd like to share with anyone going through a similar situation, it's this: don't let the opinions of others define you. Your worth is not determined by their limitations. Keep pushing forward, and you'll find your own path to success.